Hemingway's novel, The Old Man and the Sea, that shows man's position in the world, where old man represents human being and the sea represents the cosmos or universe that is full of challenges as well as opportunities. Old man lacks physical strength, but he has high dream to make his mark in the world by attaining his goal, that's catching the marlin. He succeeds to hook the marlin, but he fails to bring the marlin into his cave, and he has to wait for next 50 hours, mean 2 days. On the third day, he succeeds to kill the marlin, and then he tries to bring that marlin to the seashore to show the world what he has attained. But on the way back to home, he is attacked by sharks who reduces marlin to a mere skeleton. During his fight with sharks, he claims that defeat is out of question. Man is not made for defeat. Man can be destroyed, but not defeated. These are significant ideas that where we see the theme of the novel: man can be destroyed but not defeated. That's a message of optimist. That's a message of despairing courage. That's a message of a code hero who is in search of code of life. That's a message of an optimist human being who has failed to get the reward of his success, but he feels the triumph because of his moral victory. In novel, there is another sentence: every day is a new day, that shows that man should live in the moment, forget the past or burden of the past or tragedy of the past, and he should be ready for more adventures, more challenges with bright hope. Manolin represents the lost youth of Santiago, and he complements two sides of mean one side, one of the two sides of human being. Mean wisdom, maturity, skill is represented through old man, and aspirations, dreams, energy, that is represented through Manolin. There are different symbols in the novel, but I am not discussing them. Now I have to move to the next novelist, I mean William Faulkner. Hemingway's novels are least about Americans. His characters are mostly about in the exile or in a world that is alien. I mean, in Italy, in Farewell to Arms, in Spain and Paris, in The Sun Also Rises, in Spanish Town, that's Far Home the Bell Tolls, in Havana, a city of Cuba, and it's, you can say, sea, in The Old Man and the Sea. There is an American novelist who is known for his novel of the South. I mean, American South. First of all, everyone must remember the distinction between American North and American South. एक कंफ्यूजन आप लोगों ने जहन से निकालना है. वो कंफ्यूजन ये है कि देयर आर टू कॉन्टिनेंट्स इन द वर्ल्ड, नॉर्थ अमेरिका एंड साउथ अमेरिका. कॉन्टिनेंट की डिस्क्रिप्शन अलहदा एक चीज है और कंट्री की अलहदा है। जो साउथ अमेरिका है वो एक कॉन्टिनेंट के तौर पर जब आप उसको देखते हैं तो उसमें क्यूबा, ब्राजील, अर्जेंटीना, पेरू, चिली, पैराग्वे, निकारागुआ, ये बहुत सारी कंट्रीज जो है वो इसमें शामिल। और नॉर्थ अमेरिका में आपको 3 कंट्रीज नजर आते हैं, मैक्सिको, कनाडा एंड यूएसए। तो आपने पहले जहन में रखना है कि नॉर्थ अमेरिकन कॉन्टिनेंट में एक स्टेट है, एक मुल्क है जिसको हम यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका कहते हैं। अब इस यूएसए का एक ईस्ट वेस्ट और नॉर्थ साउथ है। इसको उस जो कॉन्टिनेंट साउथ अमेरिका कॉन्टिनेंट है उसके साथ कंफ्यूज नहीं करना, बिकॉज दैट साउथ is the southern part of US. America or United States of America, if we distribute it industrially advanced northern states and agricultural, rural, aristocratic south, ये अमेरिका के 2 बड़े हिस्से बन सकते हैं। नॉर्दर्न अमेरिका where we see the culture of industry, progress, modernization, urbanization, and the culture of South, that is in South, where there was once a tradition of aristocracy. American aristocracy, as everyone knows, that is not so old. As America as a nation is not thought an ancient nation, though it was in certain ways, but it was only for the Native Americans, which are called Red Indian as well. बाकी जो जिन लोगों का अब अमेरिका है उनका उसकी एंशियंट होने से ताल्लुक नहीं। These were the actually Europeans, including the white Anglo Britishers who reached America. They started plantation over there because that was a free land for them. That was a land of opportunities for them, and they started rule over there after beating or defeating the Red Indians. Later on, they brought African people as slaves to work on their farms. यानी जो यूरोप के गोरे थे वो अपने फार्म्स पर या खेती बाड़ी के मकसद के लिए वो ले आए अफ्रीकन्स को स्लेव बना के। They use them either different types of mining industries or sugarcane industries, or they use them, or you can say they use them in bulk for their plantation. So those who were their masters, they were aristocrats, and those who were made slaves, they were people brought from Africa as slaves. No, they are called African Americans, black. So in South, there was a tradition of slavery. के एक white masters है और उसका एक black slave है। Black slave अफ्रीका से लाया गया है और जो white master है वो यूरोप के किसी मुल्क से आया था। डोमिनेटली वो जो है वो इंग्लैंड से आया। एंड जो स्लेव्स हैं वो काम करते हैं और जो मास्टर्स हैं वो बैठ के खाते हैं। And that was a tradition that produced certain values as well. We can say values of care, values of communal relations. Though in that systems, the slaves are African slaves, they were at disadvantage. Slaves को बज़ाहिर उसका नुकसान ही था, but they used to work together. Ultimately, there existed a civilization that, according to certain writers, that was stronger than the civilization of Northern America, the northern part of US. Two great writers, William Faulkner in fiction and Tennessee Williams in drama, they write about American South, American Southern aristocracy. Even they write about the character of Southern Belle. Southern Belle means the girl that belongs to southern part of America. William Faulkner, we can say he also belonged to the white Anglo aristocracy of the American South, but who was concerned to write decline of that aristocracy. He preferred to write a fictional family that is called Compson family, that is seen in his work, The Sound and the Fury. William Faulkner is great master of stream of consciousness novels as well. He resembles James Joyce and Virginia Woolf. And no, I'm talking about this novelist who uses the story of the American South as the microcosm for 20th century modern man's story. William Faulkner claims, I am telling the same story over and over, which is myself and the world. That remark catches one of the major compulsions in his fiction. Faulkner was prone to interpret any writing, including his own writing, as a revelation of the writer's secret life as his or her dark twin. यानी ऐसे राइटर हैं जो समझते हैं कि राइटर का सेल्फ और उसका वर्क दे कैन नॉट बी सेपरेटेड. He was inclined to see that writing as shadowed by the repressed myth, the secret stories of his culture. So repetition was not repetition, repetition was a rediscovery as Faulkner saw it. His art was an art not of omission like Hemingway's, but of reinvention. हेमिंगवे के आर्ट की बेस्ट क्वालिटी प्रिसीजन है, जिसके लिए खुद हेमिंगवे ने वर्बल ओमिशन की टर्म यूज की. लेकिन फॉकनर के ख्याल में ओमिशन या प्रिसीजन नहीं है, बल्कि एक स्टोरी है, वो बार बार बयान की जाए. His masterpiece is The Sound and the Fury. Sound and Fury, everyone knows that's a phrase taken from Shakespeare drama Macbeth, and that refers to meaninglessness of life. In that novels, one story of Compson family is told 4 times. In that novel, there are 4 narrators. First is Benji or Benjamin. Second is Compson, his brother. Third, another brother, Jason. And fourth part is narrated by the novelist himself, but with the dominant point of view of Dilsey, a black governess of Compson family. So one story is repeated 4 times in the story, in the novel, The Sound and the Fury. And repetition is used as a tool of rediscovery. Faulkner's art was not an art of omission, but art of reinvention, which purpose is circling back and circling back again to the life that had been lived and missed. shaped by the oral traditions of the South, because in South there was a culture of storytelling, and that culture of storytelling is associated with the black or African American slaves who used to tell the stories, even the children of their masters, which were still alive when he was young, and by the reflected techniques of modernism to which he was introduced as a young man. So he blends the tradition of storytelling with the innovative techniques of modernism, which has uh, been influenced by different movement, including Cubism, Dadaism of paintings. Faulkner, like so many of his protagonists and narrators, kept coming back and then coming back again to events that seemed to resist understanding, to brim with undisclosed meaning. There would always be blockage between the commemorating writer and commemorated experience. Faulkner's compulsive use of the metaphor of a window indicated the window on which a name is inscribed. That window is mentioned in his story Requiem for a Nun, window through which Quentin Compson gazes at his native South as he travels home from Massachusetts in the novel The Sound and the Fury. Writing was consequently described as a transparency and an obstacle, offering communication and discovery to the inquiring gaze of writer and reader. In his case, the pollen of ideas was primarily southern in origin. Faulkner was born, brought up, and spent most of his life in Mississippi state, that is the southern state, and in one of these states where slavery was practiced. Most of his fiction is set in his apocryphal county of Yoknapatawpah. Yoknapatawpah is an imaginary county, imaginary county of American South. All his novels are set in that county. जैसे टॉमस हार्डी के नॉवल वेसेक्स नॉवल हैं, तो विलियम फॉकनर की नॉवल योकना पटावा, and that county is based on his home county of Lafayette. Not only that, every exploration of identity in his fiction tends to become an exploration of family, exploration of community, and exploration of culture. Faulkner insisted no man is himself, man is the sum of his past. Epsilon, Epsilon, Light in August, these two are also great novels of William Faulkner. Faulkner also wrote poems. He was a creative poet as well, like Thomas Hardy. By the way, William Faulkner was awarded Nobel Prize for Literature, but actually he went there to receive that prize. But the night before the, you can say, prize distribution ceremony, he was overdrunk, and probably he was confused either to accept it or not. The next day he didn't attend the ceremony and he didn't receive his Nobel Prize. But he was awarded, he was given that status. Neither he actually disowned nor he received his prize. The Hamlet is his novel, and you should distinct William Faulkner's Hamlet from Shakespeare's Hamlet, that is a drama. The Bear is one of his great short stories. In Absalom, Absalom, Quentin Compson quotes a line that can be essence of his work. Maybe nothing ever happens once and is finished. कोई भी चीज एक बार हो के खत्म नहीं होती, बल्कि वो होती ही रहती है. That is the idea that is reflected in his work. The Sound and Fury was the most intimately work to his own experience, as he claimed that I am Quentin in The Sound and the Fury. He once admitted, there are three Compson brothers, so one of them was intellectual brother Quentin Compson, so he associates himself with that. 4 generations of Compson appear, and the most important of these is the third generation. Third generation contains the brother Quentin, who is the eldest one, the brother Jason, who is shrewd or somehow evil-minded character, Benji, who is the dumb, impulsive, sensual character, and their sister Candace, who is known as with her nickname Caddy. And 3 of the 4 sections into which narration is divided are consigned to the voices of Compson brothers. First section of the novel is Benji relates the story of the whole family, because Benji is inarticulate. Benji is actually dumb brother, so he is inarticulate. वो अच्छे तरीके से अपनी बात पहुंचा नहीं सकता. He is sensual, he is impulsive, and you can say his version of the story is based on spontaneity and version of spontaneous natural expression. What is the story? Story actually is about of the decline of Compson family, and the novel captures its one generation, that's the third generation, where these third or fourth generation, we can say, because in fourth section we see the fourth generation as well. The novel captures that Compson brothers, Benji, Jason, and Quentin, and their sister Caddy, they have been deprived of the love of their mother. And it is because of decline of aristocracy in the American South. So in the past, there were the people who were available to serve them, and the family used to live in an idealist image. That idealist image was gradually shattered, and the present situation is that the family has reduced to a corrupt form, where mother seems a dependent body, Mother Compson, and father seems a disillusioned, cynical man who even thinks that everything is possible in the world. So Benji, who among all the brothers, who is need the most care, and he receives that care from his sister Caddy. In their childhood, because they were not properly cared and tended by their mother, so they have spent the time with their sister. And They have also, you can say, got certain actual or imagined movement of seeing the naked body of their sister. And Benji, you can say, fascinates it in his reflection towards uh, a reflection over his life and his family life. We see that actually there is a desire or latent desire, एक पोशीदा ख्वाहिश है, for incest or siblings incest that is seen in uh, first two at least part. I mean, Quintus has a similar desire, and Benji has a desire. Second part is counts the memories of Quinton. Quinton, who makes up his mind to commit suicide because he develops a guilt, and that guilt is that he has a desire for the body of his sister Katie. And when he shares that psychological problem with his father doesn't value to it, and he thinks that everything is possible in this world. And the boy, who is very much shocked with his own, you can say, far-fetched imagination, and when he shares with father instead of consoling him, or you can say giving him an outlet, he presents that disillusioned remark which I have just mentioned. It intensifies the trauma of Quinton, and Quinton, the waywardness, Quinton's last day, and his flashbacks are in his section of story. His relation with his other brothers, relation with his sister. Actually, all three brothers take Caddy as their mother. She was their sister, but the love that they missed in their life, they couldn't get from their mother, they are actually getting from their sister. That's why we say displaced Oedipal desire is seen in their memory. Quinton is victim of his intellect, his rationality, his intelligence, while Benji was victim of his inarticulation, failure to communicate. Third brother is Jason, who actually makes fool others, particularly his grandmother, Caddy, his father, and he seems somehow an evil character. Though in the last part of the novel, he seems a bit improved. Jason has a material pursuit. And in Jason's story, we find that Caddy, who is a promiscuous girl, ना सिर्फ कि वो तीनों भाई जो हैं वो शेटर हो चुके हैं, बल्कि बहन भी बेचारी जो है वो मोहब्बत ना मिलने की वजह से she has already shattered, and she has promiscuous relationship with many, and that is a disgrace to family, and that is also part of the pain and agony of the brother's life. And Benji and Quinton don't make initiatives to penalize their sister, but Jason tries to do so, to bring his sister Caddy on a true right path. Later on, Caddy, she gives birth to a daughter. Her name is also Quinton. So in novel, she is called Miss Quinton. Mr. Quinton is Caddy's brother, and Miss Quinton is Caddy's daughter. And Miss Quinton, we can say that's the fourth generation of Thompson family, and she is, I think, worse than the previous generation. She even is engaged in activity of theft, etc. Last part, last section is described by narrator of the novel, but with the point of view of the governess, who still has values. She is a black woman, She is a slave. She serves Compson family, but what white family or Anglo-American family couldn't do, that was being provided by Dilsey. Three of uh, the present time of the Sound and Fury is distilled into 4 days, three of them occurring over the Easter weekend 1928. The Quinton section being devoted to a day in 1910 when he chooses to commit suicide. So Easter weekend of 1928 is represented in three sections except the second one, that is a day of 1910. There is a constant narrative impulse to repeat and rehearse the past, to be carried back on the old ineradicable rhythms of memory, in the tradition of a stream of consciousness where past and present are intermingled. Memories are many, but the determining one for the Compson brothers are of the woman who was at the center of their childhood world. And that center of their childhood world was Caddy Compson, their sister. But that sister is no loss to them literally and emotionally, because she is not living with them. Caddy is the source and inspiration of what became and remained the novel closest to Faulkner's own heart. The Sound and Fury, uh, with the mental picture of the muddy seat of a little girl's dryers in a pear tree, where she could see through a window where her grandmother's funeral was taking place, while her brother gazed at her from down below. She is also the subject of the book, as this brief explanation suggests. Caddy carries linked intimations of sex and death. Faulkner wrote, "That's what I wrote the book about." Means he wrote the book about Caddy, and I used the tool which seemed to me the proper tools to try to draw the picture of Caddy. So Caddy, she does not relate her story. Story is related by her brothers or by the narrator of the novel, but she is, you can say, the focus, the subject matter whose picture novelist wanted to draw. Each section of the book represents a different strategy, another attempt to know harm in Caddy, especially the difference in each section is a matter of rhetoric, in the sense that each time the tale is told, another language is devised. Mean language of inarticulate, I mean Benji, language of precise accuracy and exactness, mean Quinton, and language of escapist, that's of Jason's. And this different series of relationship established between author, narrator, subject, and reader. When Benji occupies our attention right at the start, for instance, we soon become aware of a radical inwardness. Profoundly autistic, autism is the disease, and Benji is autistic. Benji lives in a closed world where the gap between self and other, being and naming, cannot be breached because it is never known or acknowledged. The realm outside himself remains a foreign to him, as its currency of language does, and Faulkner is creating an impossible language here that is giving voice to the voiceless. Second section is devoted to Quinton. Quinton collapses distance in another way. Quinton, for his part, tries to abolish the gap between Caddy and himself. Although not being mentally handicapped, he is less successful at this than Benji. He sometimes tends to confess to address the reader, to try to address him, and sometimes to forget him. With Jason in the third section of The Sound and the Fury, distance enters. Faulkner is clearly out of sympathy with his Compson brother, mean Jason, even if he is amused by him. Jason, in turn, while clearly obsessed with Caddy, never claims any intimacy with her. जैसे पहले दो भाइयों ने क्लेम किया था ऐसा कि हमारे अंदर एक इंसेस्ट की डिजायर थी. He does not express it, and the reader is kept at some remove by the specifically public mode of speech Jason uses, full of swagger, exaggeration, and saloon bar prejudice. Jason seems separated from just about everything, not least himself. So, first two section was of intimacy, and third was of distance and separation. Final section of the novel offers release from all this. The closed circle of interior monologue is broken. No, that's the closed monologue of Benji. Sense of concrete world is firm. The visible outline of things finally and even harshly etched. The emphasis throughout in the closing pages is on appearance and impression, on what seems to be the case rather than what it is. We are still not being told the whole truth. Implication is there remain limits to what we can know.